Welcome to another Burchfield Penney sketch break, sponsored by Hyatt's All Things Creative. Today's prompt is leaves. So we all know it's fall time. The leaves are starting to finally change their colors. You're seeing those yellows and orange and reds. And so today's lesson is how to do a leaf design drawing. So this one's a little bit different than other sketch breaks. I have a little bit more complicated supplies, but you can still do this at your desk. And if you have leaves from outside, you can use those. I will be using these little cutout leaves that I made just moments ago. So my supplies today are actually going to be watercolor pencils and water-soluble crayons. And I got these all from Hyatt's. And these will give you a watercolor technique without actually using paints. All you need is water and a brush. So I will show you what I'm talking about. So start with your outline. And again, like if you have a real leaf, that is probably the best way to go because it's an easy thing to find, but I have these little cutouts. So I'm gonna just start tracing my leaf. And as best I can. And I'm using a watercolor paper. That way when I start to add my water, the paper doesn't get mushy. It'll actually absorb that water. All right, so there's my first leaf. And I'll go on to the next one. I'm gonna switch colors here. I'm gonna do a red on this one. And these pencils are a really easy way when you're doing a watercolor to get some finer details if you don't have a small brush, or if you're just sketching and then you add water, it adds a really cool effect to a sketch. So they're fun, they're super fun to use. Switch to an orange. And I'm kind of just randomly placing these. There's no, rhyme or reason to where I'm putting these. I'm just trying to kind of alternate the placement so it's not super stagnant or repetitive. And I'm just trying to go around these leaves as best I can. All right, so far so good. I'm gonna add a couple more leaves. I fit one here, maybe there. Got a blue. All right. One more and then I'm probably good. I think I'll do another big leaf here. And I think I'll end with red. All right, so we've got our leaves. Now, if these were smaller, you could get them really close together, cluster them a little bit, and that'll create some really cool effects. But I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna do next with these pencils and crayons. And the crayons are really fun to use because they build out bigger lines than the pencils do. All right, so I only have two colors of these, blue and red, so I will use the pencil for the orange one, but for these, I'm gonna take the red. I'm just gonna go a little bit thicker along the outline here. Really get that shape. All right, that's nice. Take my brush, get it nice and wet. All right. And then see how it starts to dissolve and kind of spread that color? And now you want to follow the outline, and you'll see why at the end, because it's going to create a really cool watercolor background around these leaves. So I'm just going to follow my brush, make sure you have that water on it so it doesn't dry out, and just slowly follow that outline around your leaf. You can go bigger, because eventually when you get to the other sections, the colors will start to collide. All right, so now I'm gonna go with the blue. And now who remembers what blue and red make when they are mixed together? What color do they make? Because that's the color we're gonna get when we blend these two shapes. All right, so I'm gonna clean off my brush one more time, make sure all that red is out of there so it doesn't turn right away. Add our blue, and we're gonna mix and start to blend these colors. A little bit of purple's coming through, not much though. I can always add a little bit more. Keep following this line. I'm gonna come out a little bit farther on this one because there's nothing over here, and eventually those are gonna collide, right? Just keep going. You can go a little freehand with it. You don't need to be precise. You can, you see I'm holding my brush at the very end. That keeps me from being too precise with my lines. Feels a little freer than holding it really close to the end of the brush. But that's a personal thing. You don't have to do that. All right, and as we keep colliding, you can see this dried really quickly. So what else you can do is you can add some more color here. Maybe I want to get these really blended in. I'm going to start adding in some red and mix that together. And then you can start seeing this purpley, reddish color come through. Maybe I'll take it all the way to the edge. Really fill it out. Add some more color. And it blends right away. You can still see the little scribble mark, but the color really just takes it, this water. And maybe I want some blue through here. And I'll mix this together. Neat. All right, so that's, you can see it's turning purple a little bit. And if I want that to stay blue over there, we'll just add some more blue. Start to fill it out a little bit. Awesome. So you kind of get the idea. Now, again, I don't have a orange one, so I'm gonna do my best I can with this colored pencil. And about 5 minutes left. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get this all completed in 5 minutes, but I will show you a finished version at the end. You can really see the difference here with the pencil versus the crayon. And we'll see a difference in their solubility when I add water to them. And I'm pressing really hard. I'm trying to get a really thick edge around this to really define this leaf, which is a lot harder to do with this with a pencil than it is a crayon, because that has such a wider surface area. So if you ever try these kinds of materials, they're really fun to use. They're great even if you're a beginner watercolor artist. You don't need to, you don't need to wait until you're, famous watercolor artist to get these cool supplies. Like, this is a really fun way. Kids can use these, adults can use these. They're really great tool. Clean my brush off, make sure there's no more red or blue. And I'm gonna start adding. Now, see, you can see a difference right away. I want you to take a look at how this is just absorbing all of that, and you kind of lose all line. I just added all of this color and it's just taking it right away. Look how much more color you get off of that than you are with the crayons. That's actually super interesting. You can see the different types of materials when you use them together or separately. You can see different brands work a little bit better. Different types work better. This is really interesting that the pencil is actually blending way better than the crayon is. So maybe what I might do on the other side of this paper is use my blue pencil and my red pencil, and maybe I'll get a cleaner, less scribbly version of these leaves. So let's experiment. Let's try this out. I've never done this before with this kind of collab of pencil versus crayon. All right, so I'm gonna keep blending these. I'm going to take this all the way to the edge. All right, I've got a couple minutes left. I'm going to keep working. When I get back, I will show you the difference between using the crayon and using the pencils, and see what kind of difference that makes. All right, so here I am. I finished my blending, and I just want to point out a couple differences between the materials that I use. So again, I used a watercolor pencil and these like aqua crayons. So both water soluble, but they do have different results. So this one I used the crayon, and you can really tell like it picks up a lot of the color, but it definitely leaves, you know, a trace of what you drew, which if you're looking for something like this, where it's a little bit more scribbly or a little more playful, this would be a really fun thing to use for that. Whereas if you come onto this side of the work, you've got a really nice, it takes almost all of that line away. You can barely see it, especially on this orange one here. You can barely see any of that line. But I will say that when I added the pencil to a surface that was already wet, that's where you get this really, it kind of like locks in that color onto the wet surface and it won't move. Whereas on the dry paper section, it really is taken off of it and can move around. Whereas if a surface is already really wet, you get this kind of clumpiness, really thick, dark areas. And so that can be hindering, or you can embrace it however you want to look at it. But those are really interesting findings. I never really realized that or tried that before. So that was a cool experiment. And isn't that the point of doing projects like these? Just being curious with your supplies, with your materials. So that was a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed this week's sketch break. We'll see you in 2 weeks. And our next prompt is going to be spiders. So join us then, and thanks.